Alright, now last week I mentioned a game that was on my list of arcade games that I felt really needed to be covered in one of my Genre Makers videos. This game worked a bit like Time Crisis, but without the need for the pedal in order to take cover or duck, if you will. How did it do this, and why it wasn't more popular or well known? Well, these are all really good questions and ones we should definitely look at in the realm of rare arcade experiences. So if you have a bit of time, sit back and hang out a while as we go into the arcade looking at some of the rare cabinets made, how they worked, and find some that bring you experiences that only really worked well as they did because they had dedicated cabinets. Now this game was known as Police 911 and was released in 2000 worldwide by Konami as part of the Lethal Enforcers line of games. In fact, this game actually did have multiple names. Police 911 for the 911 service in the United States, and Police 247 in the EU based off the 24/7 nature of the police force there. The story is, well, pretty simple. Japanese crime has taken a heavy uptake, and in response the government set up a nationwide arrest plan for everyone involved. The game starts out pretty brutally with a shootout in the precinct, and moving on with the players tasked with taking out key criminals in the organization, all the way up to the man behind the scenes, the kingpin, if you will. Now this in and of itself is kind of a normal story for a normal like-owned game, enough to warrant a shootout in any 80s through 2000s like-owned game, or really even movie. No, what made this cabinet special was how you played it. You see, this cabinet had a cover mechanic much like Time Crisis. Though unlike Time Crisis where you had to use a pedal to come out of cover, in this one you stood on the yellow pad and had a series of infrared sensors that were aimed at it. In this area, your body movement would determine how you moved and ducked in the game, you see? This cover mechanic, from what I was able to uncover, was fairly dynamic in that your movement was actually really critical. Not ducking far enough would leave you exposed. Not ducking the right way would make you unable to really strike certain targets, as it would leave obstructions in your way when peeking out to fire. It also required you to lean into the gameplay in more ways than one. Not ducking enough physically would leave you in a bad spot to fire back, or worse yet, leave you exposed. So much like other games of a physical nature, you really did need to commit to the control scheme. Good aim and target acquisition was also important. You see, hitting someone in the backseat of the car would help you, sure. However, if you kill the driver, you actually take out the full car, for example. The good thing about this system is that it and other systems like it make surviving in the game fairly easy. Your biggest blocker actually starts to come down to timing. Both in this game and in Time Crisis, there's a clock that's constantly running down while you're playing. Clearing a section will add time to the clock, but this system forces you to take chances rather than just constantly hiding behind cover in order to basically be able to succeed in the game. The game overall was actually pretty successful, coming out with a sequel called Police 911/2, which from what I could find didn't really change a whole lot in the game's actual systems. It basically just was the same game with new missions. However, this actually did manage to do a port, which would be challenging because you would think the technology would be too advanced to make the move to consoles around the time, leaving this as an arcade-only experience. However, it did manage to make this jump over to the PlayStation 2, no less. Here it managed to even incorporate the dynamic cover system, assuming you had the iToy camera for the console. What's cool about this is that it came out several years before the Wii and the Xbox Kinect ever hit the market, making it one of the earlier motion controls of this level in consoles, period, which is honestly kind of amazing. However, what do you guys think of this one? Did any of you ever play this one at the arcade? Did any of you ever own one of these cabinets, and if so, how was it? Did any of you ever mess with the PlayStation port at all? Let me know in the comments what you think of this one and the ports if you had them. While you're there, if you don't mind, give this video a like. And if you see more of my content you like, consider giving the channel a follow. That really does help me out a lot. Until next time though, have a great rest of your day, and happy gaming.